Hey, everybody, and welcome. This is Leslie Robert Wolf with Thunder Access News and, of course, Whale of an Idea. And I've got a very special report for you today. I mean, I've seen a lot of products in my time, but wait till you hear what this particular product does. It'll blow your mind. It's got to be one of the greatest inventions of all time to date when you hear everything that this thing will do. And today, our guest, the inventor, is Garth Stabley. And Garth, are you there? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I am. Thanks for allowing me to join you.
Okay, so what we're going to do is kind of go through a lot of what the product does at some point here, and then after that, we actually want to get into how it can actually even be used for people's health, and then also how you want to use the product for humanitarian purposes. But to start, why don't we just go in and let people know about your background, and then just kind of go right into the product.
Well, my background is I'm born and raised in Detroit. I've been living in Nevada for the last 33 years, and prior to coming out here, I worked for Henry Ford, literally the second before he passed away. They didn't hire me. I hired myself into the company, not literally, but I was hired by Ford's. I had the privilege of working under Henry Ford II as a stationary engineer. Could have been most likely because his grandfather, Henry Ford I, was the first literal stationary engineer in the world. I always consider myself the millionth. But the long and the short of that is, after I was relieved of my duties there, as many people were during the downturn, I came out to Nevada because of, I've never seen an announcement out here looking for an engineer with my skills and background. Well, after shortly arriving here, Mr. Wynn hired me, and I helped build the Mirage Hotel. It also gave birth to my formula.
That's Steve Wynn with the Wynn Properties.
Steve Wynn, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Right, Wynn Properties, right. Wynn Resorts.
Right, yeah.
Which were many at one time before he sold them. Yeah, but he still owns one of the most elaborate hotels in the world today, though.
Okay, go ahead.
And after working with Mr. One day I was putting together the formula that's currently been on the market for over 3 decades called Terra-Kleen. And his brother Frank come up to me one day and says, "What is that formula you're developing?" I had to be cleaning the cooling tower of all things, because it just happens to remove scale, and it's not an acid or caustic, it's alkaline base. So after he seen that, he went back down to his brother, and he called me downstairs and wanted me to explain all about it, and I was just venting it at that time, so I didn't have a whole lot to share with him other than it's a cleaner, degreaser, environmentally safe, it's not acid, and I went into that elaborate part of it, and that was about it. Well, 10 years later, it took off like a wildflower, because here in Vegas, if you have something good, especially something that works, which this was, it sold itself and took off. So I ended up being in just about every major resort in Las Vegas for many years, including going around the world on a small scale, using it for not just cleaning purposes and degreasing purposes, but a lot of other environmental issues, which are cleaning the soil, cleaning the water. I was involved in the Valdez spill after that started years ago with Jack Cousteau. The Portuguese Spain spill years later, and then recently the BP spill after being called from Harry Reid, my local senator here, to go to work on that. So it gave birth to a lot of industrial applications as it progressed from a general purpose cleaner safe on all surfaces, and having the only formula literally in the world that was issued to broad claims from the U.S. Patent Office, and until this date there hasn't been one issued since. I was very proud of that and very acknowledged by the fact, and years later people would acknowledge the fact that it's nice to have something that's worked, safe, economically sound, environmentally safe. And it was also the first green product on the market today, and as far as I know, I think I'm the only one that literally can claim the label, I should say.
Okay, and now I know she said that it's been out for a long time, yet people I've talked to and everything they don't know of it. They've like never heard of it. What do you?
Well, you're right. You're right, Leslie. It's very true. I've had people say it's the best kept secret in the world, Garth. I said, well, I'm a one-man show, so to speak, one person with one hat going in 4 different directions. I'm not saying I haven't had people work with me, but literally speaking, 33 years later, I have literally opened up hundreds of vertical markets. Now, I was granted my mil specs for the military, and it was the first time that any mil specs of such manner was granted. B.F. Goodrich had to authorize it first. It had to be safe on brake landings because when jets descend, they generate 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and anything explosive on that or corrosive, they can't buy. So when I did my first demonstration in record time, I took an F-16 by myself after they had a crew lined up side by side. It took them an hour and a half to clean from canopy to landing gear, and it took me 45 minutes with my spray bottle, spraying and wiping, and that was it. Very impressive, but also very true and accurate. And many years later, I can attest to it many times over with other illustrations other than that.
So what they found is that SOS pads and Windex just doesn't do the job when it comes to cleaning stealth bombers.
No, I won't mention any names because I don't think it's appropriate, but there's some very popular brands out there that they literally stopped using and wouldn't allow them on base because they had butyl in it and acid and metisolates and other irritable formulations, I should say, that are environmentally safe because everything we put on our hands goes into a skid, which goes into our bloodstream. And everything goes into the ground, goes into the water stream. So we've been polluting the ground and ourselves for too many years. And as an end result of that, people have been crying out to the public for safer products. And I believe I was very blessed, to say the least, because I'm very humbled by the fact that I was giving this wisdom or knowledge, if you want to put it that way. That's just myself talking. To be able to create this formula. I always believed it could be done, and I'm just the type of person that grew up, and a lot of it came from Ford Motor Company and others. Take the T out of can't and say I can do it and go out and do it. And that's always been my attitude, to be quite honest with you, Leslie.
Now, I know you've had some like certifications or something done. I know you said you got a patent on it. What are the type of certifications, I guess, for lack of a better word?
It's very accurate. I mean, I have a patent and trademark on it, number one. And I was USDA authorized. I'm grandfathered in now because it's now privatized. And now it's NSF approved, which is taken over for USDA. Meets OSHA and EPA standards. In other words, meaning the only reason you have to have certification from them is if it has crossbones and it's poison and can't be admitted into the environment, or you got to be careful of it to not get it in your skin, your eyes, or your mouth and digest it. Which in this case is not, because I'll make this statement, which is very important. Every living organism and cell in the world, from plant life, animal life to human life, grows and thrives on the alkaline side of the scale. Back in 1935, a doctor came out and stated that cancer can't live in an alkaline environment. So I've been very grateful that I was given, I should say, the knowledge and wisdom to create a formula that has that ability, and it does to this day.
I remember you told me, you said at one time Bill Gates had come to see you.
Yeah,
Tell that story.
The reason I'm laughing ahead of time is because I spent 20 years in the entertainment business working with people like Rich Little. And at midnight sometimes, a few of them would call me up and play pranks because that's just the nature of who they are and what they do. And so therefore, I said, okay, Rich, it's 12 o'clock at night. What are you calling for? No, this is Bill Gates. I said, the Bill Gates? He says, yes. He says, let me explain why I called. He says, I study patents. I've never seen a patent like yours. Your patent is literally worth 1,000 patents because of all the various applications. So when he said that, he had my interest, and I validated the fact that it was either him or somebody that wanted to be like him. So I met him, and it was the person. And he just said several different things, including even making an offer to buy it. And I said, well, first of all, it's not for sale. I've just been on the market just a few years at the time. And he said, well, Garth, here's what I wanted to impress upon your mind. I'm approaching a $1 billion market. He was the first billionaire in the world. And he says, but your formulation has the ability to create a $1 trillion market. And I looked at him and I said, well, what are you trying to impress upon me? I said, that's just a few zeros that nobody can count. But I got his message loud and clear, and I appreciated that. So we talked, for about 20 minutes or so afterwards, because I came up with a unique name for the computer industry called. Now, as I was sharing with you about my mil specs, one of the things I did, because I had worked up at Area 51, when they were creating the stealth bomber, they had allowed me the privilege of being able to clean up something before release to the public. Well, at that time, they couldn't put water on it, let alone anything else, and my product, long and short, works very well in electronics. I've submerged motor windings in it and plugged it back in. So when Bill and I were talking, and he did his homework because he knew as much about my formula and myself as I did. I mean, the man did his homework. And he said, Garth, this is incredible. And I said, well, what I could do for you is what you don't have, and I can see where you're going with this, and I would appreciate maybe conversing on this, later, or keep the conversation going, which did happen years later. But it was a privilege to have that kind of announcement, Leslie. And sometimes I honestly felt bad that I didn't team up with somebody like him, but I've had people say, if you had done that, who knows what would have really happened to it? Would it have gotten shelved? Would you have never opened up all these other vertical markets, from soil remediation, water reclamation, air filtration, the medical field? I mean, it's safe on skin. It has other internal properties that no other formula in the world has that you could literally, go into. And I said, well, maybe so, because it's been a long road, but it's also taken care of me financially very well. I have no complaints there whatsoever, including all those that has worked with me. So, and I started a couple MLM companies to enhance that a little bit, to give you an idea where it has gone, or where it can go. But more importantly, I was happy to have something that, number one, worked. Number two, had safety behind it and economics behind it. And to me, that just, lit the flame underneath me, so to speak.
All right, if we could, let's go into what the product does. I'd say I know it does 2,642 things, but why don't you give us some really strong points of what this thing can do, and also just let everybody go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just thinking, because every time you say something, you're keying in on something that I've either thought about before or somebody has brought to my attention, and that is the question they asked is what it doesn't do, because I honestly haven't found anything out yet. Otherwise, after 33 years, I'm still finding things for it to do. Now, it sounds a little bit facetious, but it's the truth. And I believe that's where my personal interest lies, as well as other people that have worked with me down through the years, and I've been blessed to have it go, even on a small scale, around the world without me tagging along. And that's a privilege, really, as well as an honor. But give you a couple quick examples. When I went into the hotel, the first thing I asked even Steve Wynn, I said, how many products are you using? He said, oh, there has to be 15 or 20 altogether. I literally went in there without being facetious and replaced every single one of them. And I did that for almost 3 decades. I can still do it in the hotels, saving them 50 to 75%. And not only that, by all their SIS cases, which is insurance cases, because somebody gets hurt or even dies, that's a lawsuit, and that costs them millions of dollars. So I'm saving them that, plus EPA, OSHA, Health Department, not shutting them down. People showing up to work. People in kitchens, where I've been for many years, had to garb up, put goggles on and gloves on and sweat, and then they get something in their eye, they're missing work. I mean, that list is endless, really. It gives you a grip on your hand as a chef, where you're not dropping tools or cutting yourself or burning yourself. If you do burn yourself, it'll help with that. But the point is it's given them safety and economics like nothing else has ever done to this day. And there's nothing in the world, honestly, that I can honestly say that can come close to it, or if there is, that can replace it.
Well, so give me an example of how somebody would use it at home.
In your home, most people in their home will use maybe 5 or 10 different products. As a glass cleaner, if I didn't sell it for anything else but a glass cleaner, it would be the best glass cleaner in the world, because it doesn't out the streak, and dust and dirt repels from the surface, because it puts what I call a sheen on there, kind of a protective sheen, not a coating, where water repels off it, dust and dirt, which is why the military liked it for the canopy, because they can't have anything on there that collects anything, That's one. That's very important, believe it or not, in the hotels, especially in Vegas, where everything likes to shine, needs to shine. It's safe on all metal surfaces, brass, gold, copper, some of the harshest and toughest surfaces that will corrode or get dirty, like stainless steel. They've used the product for many years in these kitchens, where it's an oil-based product that collects dirt and dust the minute it's applied. This doesn't. That, in and of itself, if I just named 2 or 3 that if I didn't do anything else other than the broad list that it has, they would love it. They would buy it, and they do, of course, anyways. And then it's a deodorizer and a cleaner. It's not registered as a sanitizer and disinfectant. Never had to. I went to EPA and they said, you don't need to do that. We don't like to take identified cleaners and degreasers and allow them to be labeled as a disinfectant cleaner, even though they are. But when I sold it to the Health Department, I think I can say this now, they said, you didn't hear this from us, but if we know your product's been there and on property, and we know it's cleaned the surface, as long as they have a registered product like bleach, which is lethal to begin with, we'll pass it. And they did. I mean, every one of these hotels never had anything but high ratings. I took them from hypothetically a 5 or 6 rating and put them into a 10 rating. And it was a pleasure doing that, and I still do it to this day.
All right. So what other at-home uses could it be used for?
Well, carpets in particular.
Carpets, how about laundry?
Laundry, yes. I did a test here at the time as the world's largest laundry in the world, and maybe still to this day. Took all the hotel laundry, Dacron, Ryan, anything that's subject to dry cleaning. We put it in a wash and wear cycle, including the leather jacket, with no shrinkage or the bare minimum, because everything does shrink to a degree, and came out clean, bright, and especially a leather jacket. You've never heard or seen that ever done before, or suede. And that is very strong, because now a homeowner can do that, and I'm not saying that's going to put the dry cleaners out of business, but perchlorinate, one of the most lethal drugs, chemicals in the world, they've been trying to take off the market for 30, 40, 50, I think it's been 60 years now that they had it on there. And what they've done in the meantime is they've made distillers to put it through, but it still doesn't take all the toxicity out of it. You spill it on a piece of concrete, you have to dig the concrete up. That's how lethal it is. So, and that's a fact. That's a known fact by EPA. Well, that is a market I started going 2 years ago. The long and the short of it is I had another contractual agreement, and this happened to be a separate contractual agreement. I won't go into this too lengthy, but that is an area that I could go into this day as a vertical market that I could share with you, as well as going back into the household application, carpet cleaner. When you apply it to the carpet, it cleans it. Any set stain, whether it's asphalt, tar, gum, some of your toughest stains in the world, this will take up with very little application, especially if it's going through an extractor. When it dries into a powder, so it's continually cleaning the carpet. And sometimes you don't have to go the second time around. You don't have to do anything but lay a little water down and extract it, and you're done. So it takes the work out of just about everything it applies to.
What about like let's say you're wearing a dress shirt and you get a stain on your dress shirt. Can you take some of it, and wipe it off, and maybe just soak a little and takes it right out?
I've done this in hotels where I've gone into a kitchen with a white shirt on. I remember the first time I did this. I wasn't sure, but I had nothing to lose. If it didn't work, at least I wasn't any more embarrassed than I was by having a stain on. I took off a grease stain right in front of the chef. He says, "Wow." And then I got bold, and I put an ink mark on there because I had taken ink mark off before. And he says, "You sold me." So yes, it takes it off. And the other thing is, most of your commercials on television will show you how to remove stains before they set and dry, which water will take most of that off. I did a QVC trade show here 25 years ago where I took stains and let them sit overnight. I took 5 of the worst stains in the world: tar, paint, asphalt, gum, mustard, ketchup, I think it was wine stains. And I took every one of them off 48 hours later. I let it set for 2 days before I took it to the show. I couldn't get away from the producers. They wanted to put me on the air, but the only reason they didn't was because they were selling toys at the time. But I kept in touch with them, and I was just starting in the market, so I really wasn't ready for that show anyways. I didn't have the funds to, support it. But it was fun doing that, and I've done it ever since. And when I go into a hotel or anywhere, I ask them, what is the hardest thing you have to take off in terms of a stain or you want clean? Don't show me anything that's common. Because if I can show you something you can't clean, I think I've sold you. And I've done that all these years, and I don't stop doing it that way. And I've never honestly seen anybody in the marketplace do that. I'm not saying there's not good products out there, that can do certain things. But I've honestly never seen anything that can do everything Terra-Kleen can do, and I've even challenged that all these years, and I've never found anything.
How about on pots and pans? How tough, like egg or something. How tough that can be to.
Well,
how does it work with that?
Well, the first time I went into a hotel, you talk about being challenged. When you go into those places, if you don't pass their test, you don't come back. Well, I was in front of a grill, and he says, "Well, what about right here?" And a lot of this was the first time, too. Well, it was hot, and I sprayed it on, and before I could even do anything, I started popping it off. And then I went onto a vertical surface on the side of the oven, what was cool, and baked on. And I said, well, this is vertical, and I just let it set. The longer it sat, the faster it worked. And in a couple case scenarios, we went inside an oven, just sprayed it, walked away, and came back a half hour later, and we're wiping it off. So it took all the labor out, the elbow grease off, and even the scraping and the pads and the chiseling they had to do. And to this day, I do this on my grill, my ovens, and everything in my own home. And everybody that's ever used it has always come back and said the same thing, including stains, oil stains in driveways that you can't get off without putting acetone there or wire brush. I've put it on, let it set, came back a day later, and it was gone. And
how do you? So let's say you have an oil stain on your driveway, right? How do you apply it, and what do you do next to actually clean it up?
What I do myself at home or anywhere is I just spray it on. I'll either dilute it like a 5 or 10 to 1 dilution ratio, or if it's really a tough stain that I want to get off right away, I'll just put it down, a little bit of it, full strength. I'll just take a little nylon brush, work it, or a broom. Or if I have a pressure washer, I can put the product down, and I can just take the pressure washer itself and clean it right off with the pressure washer. Now, I've done this for years with companies that use pressure washers, to clean buildings, concrete, all day long, and they'll just run it through the pressure washer, and it just blows it right off because the pressure the product loosens it, especially on a concrete surface that it's embedded into because it's very porous. And that's also graffiti, because I did this years ago in Las Vegas when they first opened up. It was actually an agency that went around removing graffiti. They panicked because all they could do was paint over it, and they were back running graffiti on it again. So I went in there the first time and just sprayed on a vertical surface and took it off with a brush, and then from then on they just took pressure washers and got most all of it. Now sometimes they did have to scrub it a little bit, but the effort that was put into it was well worth it, because they could get it done, especially in this heat, like right now when it's 110, 15 degrees, without sitting out there all day and burning.
Right.
So go ahead.
Go ahead and finish on your stuff.
What I was going to say is, no matter what surface it's on, or the stain that's on the surface, Terra-Kleen has always come through for me by taking it off without very little effort.
Okay. Also, just I want to let everybody know that at the end of the video here, or if you're listening to the MP3, just get with me on that. So you'll have all the contact information to be able to talk to Garth directly, because he is looking for like joint ventures, partnerships, licensing deals, that kind of thing. So just to let everybody know that. Garth, the other question I have for you is, how can this be used in conjunction with automobiles in some way? I mean, if you like put an extra little bit in your gas tank, does that do anything?
Well, for the last 2 years, I've been doing that myself personally, and it's increased my gas mileage. But the other thing that's done, which is very good, is it's cleaned out the gas tank, the fuel lines, the injectors. It runs smoother, it runs quicker, starts up better, because it's keeping everything clean. It's keeping all the carbon off and all the buildup off, and that's what causes them to get sluggish and not start. And tune-ups, it helps in all those areas. And I've been doing this for the last 2 years, but I started doing it years ago, but not on a scale that I'm doing it on now, and I've had it in my gas tank all these years. The other thing, too, that's important is the VOCs and all the contaminants that go into the air. Like a lot of time, most of your vehicles, they have to be rerouted, so they're not throwing it all into the atmosphere. And I found with the little bit of testing I've done so far, and I'm going to be doing a lot more, that we can reduce if not reduce it to a halt, reduce it to an acceptable range where places like California won't be smog-ridden. And in fact, I've done this too, that I haven't really released to the open public, but that's where funding and other things like you just mentioned, and thanks for doing that, or licensing agreements will come in handy. I could literally take all the smog out of California in 24 hours, and I'm not talking about shutting down the automobiles, but take it out of the air by putting it in a plane and letting it fall into the atmosphere and bringing it down, because I've done that. I've put out forest fires with it. I've taken smoke out. I've done a lot of those things, including oil fires, the only product in the world that'll bring up oil out of the ground safely, effectively, refine it, and put out an oil fire. And I did that 25 years ago at Marathon Oil. So I've got a product that right now, as we speak, is critical. The world, we've become so acid-bound, and our oceans turn into acid, and this will help that too. But we have a dying planet as well as our bodies. And I have a formula that can go in different areas and help save the life of the planet, the life of even a body, as well as an animal, and I've done it. And the reason I'm saying it that way is because it's a fact. I can't do it alone. I can't do it without help, and I really need all the help I can get, but there's a lot of humanitarians out there. There's a lot of nonprofit organizations out there. There's a lot of ways that Terra-Kleen and getting it launched the way it should be, for everybody, because there's 8 million people in the world. Every person is a candidate for this product. Every business is a candidate. I really don't know, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I don't know a formula in the world that can come close to that. And even Bill Gates said that to me years ago, and others like him since. And I'm proud of that, but not boastful about it. I just want to help people. That's my premise, is to help people. saved their lives and saved the planet. I mean, we can do it, but I can't do it alone. I really, there's a lot of issues out there, and I won't go into all of them, but I'll mention one that the world knows about, and that's Clear Lake. It's contaminated with mercury. I've been able to prove that I can clean that up. And recently I was even invited to be on the board. So these are areas that I'm really interested in getting into. We got to face some facts out here. If we don't do something now, it's going to be too late for the future. And that's why I'm for this.
You're referring to Clear Lake, California.
Yes, Clear Lake, California. At one time, that valley, Napa Valley, Silicon Valley, fed the whole world. 150, I believe, years ago, don't quote me, but within that time, we opened up a mercury mine. Mercury has been used to extract gold and silver and precious minerals and other stones from mines for many years. We have contaminated the soil around the world. We've depleted all the nutrients with pesticides, herbicides, mercury. That list is so long that I can't begin to tell you, including the Chernobyl incident up there. I've even looked at stuff like that, and I've even helped in cleaning stuff. So that's how serious all this is, and that's how serious I am. But I'm looking for a few good people to help get serious with me, and that's really all it's going to take to have that domino effect, so to speak, because let's face it, in a short period of time, if we don't do something, it'll be too late. But if we start doing something now, we can stop it and save it. I've proven it. I've done it for 30-some years. It's best, but it starts right here. With this kind of media exposure, meaning if the people don't know about it, I've had people for too many years say, it's the best-kept secret in the world. It's not a secret no more because I'm not going to let it be a secret. I've been around the world on a small scale, but now I need to go around on a large scale, and I need an army of people. I've got a few recruits right now, but I really need an enlistment of an army of people because this can be turned into not only a profit for everybody that's even unemployed. I mean, it can put people to work. That's my goal, is to put people to work. Even out of their homes, this could be a home project, an industrial home, whatever you want to make it. And that's what I've been blessed with, and that's what I want to do for the people because I'm tired of enjoying it myself alone. And I don't mean it literally that way, but what I mean is, why not let other people be involved in something like this that they should be? And I'm ready to let it, release it like you're helping me do right now, Leslie, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because I need more of this.
What I know it's a cleaning agent. How do you compare it to, say, washing your hands with it and so forth, as opposed to regular soap?
Well, first of all, when the formula was created, it's pharmaceutical graded. Many years, when I first started out, I got an ingestion call. It didn't startle me or scare me, but it was UMC Hospital, and the doctor was laughing in the background. So naturally, I thought it was probably Ritual or somebody playing a prank. I said, "Okay, Rich, it's 12 o'clock at night." So no, this is Dr. So-and-so. I won't mention his name. So he shared the person who accidentally, he woke up from a cold spurt, but he was an alcoholic and drank about a pint of my formula. And he sat there and he says, if we hadn't have smelled it on him, we wouldn't have known he had been drinking because his blood was clean and pure. It detoxed him. And he said he wanted to know a little about it, so I shared it with him. Well, he happened to be a chemist, biologist, as a doctor, and he asked to meet me the next day, and I won't go into all the particulars, but I'll tell you what he said. He says, your formula is on the Oakland side of the scale, guy. Cancer can't live in that environment. When this person drank it, it cleaned and purified his blood. That's all I can tell you. Well, I studied medicine. I was going to be a doctor myself, and I probably shouldn't make this statement, but I'll just say it as lightly as I can. I said this myself a couple times. I wouldn't take that hypocritical oath, and what I mean by that, and I don't mean that literally that way, is we all know that we've been given too much poison through the Food and Drug Administration. Well, I shouldn't even say that either, I guess. But we have been allowed to consume too much poison in our system, and I'll just make that statement. I think that's acceptable. And everything we eat, even through the processed food, is acid base and should be alkaline base. So what this doctor said, the long and the short of it is, you have a formula that I don't know why you're selling as a cleaning product. And I said, well, doctor, my grandmother was a practical nurse in the horse and buggy days 140 years ago, and she used to make alkaline soap. I don't know how she did it. I don't remember. I was 5, 6 years old, and she passed away when they were older and I was younger. So I was, young when they passed. So I didn't remember any of that stuff. So maybe it was just in the blood that I had to do something like this and pick up where she left off. So putting something safe on the market, well, I've had Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, named 2 other than Bill Gates, that have literally tried to buy my formula. I've told them all no. Maybe that's foolish, but I'm not about money. I didn't do it, honestly, to become the wealthiest man in the world, even though that could have happened. It can still happen, but that's not my focus. My focus is to help people. I've always been that way, and I will stay that way the rest of my life, because I have something that everybody needs. Not just wants, but needs. And if they don't, have something equal to it, they're not going to be around much longer. I can tell you that, because let's face it, if we've depleted our soil and everybody's telling us we need to eat organic food, which is true, well, this is the only organic formulation that can provide organic food, because I did this in Ukraine with the sunflower seeds. It's a true story, too, I'm sharing with you. I just found this out a couple of years ago. I sent it there. The long and the short of it, the largest manufacturer of sunflower seed that produces oil and sells it globally can now claim it to be organic. And I've done this for years. I grew up on a farm. My brother in Michigan has had it in his farmland for many, many years, growing organic vegetables. I've done it here in Nevada, and we live in Nevada, which is tough to grow things. I've been doing it for years. So what I'm sharing with you, and thanks for asking. I didn't mean to get long-winded.
No, that's okay.
I just can't help feeling, honestly, a need to share with people what I have. Now, I can take the single formula I have and turn it and put 1,000 different labels on it and sell it in a specialty way. And I have, for various reasons. I've done it with the government. I've done it with other businesses like the hotels. I've even private labeled it. I've sold it to even MLM companies. Amway wanted to buy me out years ago. I met with them personally. I was one of their first reps when I was 18, because I'm from Michigan. But the long and the short of it is, I have something that not only the world needs, but wants. But I don't want to sit back here as the next, the greatest secret in the world. I want to release it, meaning I want to offer it. Yeah. And I'm looking for the right people too, Leslie, like yourself, to work with me and partner with. I'm looking for licensing agreements. When I put this on the market years ago, my patent attorney, who happens to live, the office is in Washington, right by Washington, D.C., I should say. They said, go out there and license it. You have something that you can license. You don't have to go B2B, door to door. Well, I ended up going to B2B, door to door. I don't regret it. And because I enjoyed saving people's lives. I remember one day, what I mean by saving people's lives, I had a lady come up to me that could not use water in a hotel. And she was in the process of being discharged because she couldn't perform her duties. And this happened to be, I don't mind mentioning the name, Circus Hotel. They said, if this passes her test, Garth will buy it. And so anyways, to make a long story short, I went in there and she used it, and she was crying tears. She says, you saved my job. I never had such a rewarding thing. I couldn't help crying myself, And after that, I have never had a problem. Not one ounce of it ever came back. I've had nothing but reorders. I've never had a complaint. And I don't want to make the statement that I don't think anybody else can say that. I don't think that would be fair to make a statement like that. But I'm proud that I can make it, though, because it's a fact. And
I know
now,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Finish on what you're. Well, one of the videos. Go ahead. Go
Who's
ahead,
on
finish
first
on your
base?
note. Then I'll ask the question.
Don't get me going on the comedy side. I spent
Yeah.
too many years. Anyways, what I was going to say is, they became one of my best customers for years, and even to this day, I have people with super sensitive skin. I had to be one, and I'm probably a living testimonial to that. That uses it because of that. It helps with skin rashes, irritations. It's very good topically for burns. It'll keep the sun from burning your skin. The list is pretty broad, but it's worth elaborating a little on, because it's nice when I go into when I went into the hotels years ago. I didn't really speak Spanish that well, and Terra means earth in Spanish and Latin, so at least it has its own identification card that way. I would spray it in the air and let it fall on my face. I'd keep my eyes open, because I have people clean their contact lenses off. It's very good for your eyes, actually. Well, the reason I would do that naturally is not to get a reaction to be silly. I'd put it in my hands and even, put it around my mouth. I don't mean drink it, even though one person has, and the rest is history. I'm just trying to say I'm looking for safety at that point. Because I'm telling them, you don't have to wear gloves, but if the hotel says to wear gloves, you wear gloves. You do what they tell you to do, but knowing that you're in, good hands. You're not dealing with something that's going to hurt you or harm you. Anyways, that was my statement.
Okay, I saw in one of your videos there where a guy actually put out a fire with it. Could you explain how that?
It smothered. Well, actually, what it was a gasoline fire. It was after the oil fire did many years ago, but it was on YouTube. It took a gasoline, lit it, extinguished it with Terra-Kleen, and it wouldn't relight to prove a point. It had put out fires. And it's also fireproof, meaning I've sprayed it on not only my skin and put my hand over a flame without getting burned, but I put it on clothing and put my arm over a flame without it burning. So I can go a long ways with that. I've introduced it to the building departments in the past, the spray on materials of fire retardant, going that route. I've sold it to all the fire departments in Las Vegas. They've used it on all their equipment, and especially I didn't realize how much leather they had in the fire department, but that keeps it from cracking, and it keeps it soft and everything. Even people have saddles, for horses and that. I mean, there's a long list there. But it does and has done all these things, but that's critical, because I've gone camping. And here in Nevada, when it gets to be these temperatures, they don't want, they'll tell you, be careful fires. Well, one of the forest fires up there many years ago, and I didn't get a lot of national exposure, but I got a lot of public exposure. We put out a fire, kept it from burning up thousands of acres. Well, recently I introduced it to California when they had the fires raging there, but because of all the red tape, and I made a few phone calls but didn't get much further, it could have saved a few lives, billions of dollars, all the homes, and the forest. But no, and I won't go into that, because I'll just step on, some territory I probably shouldn't be talking about. But what I'm saying is I have a formulation, though, that can be used in these applications that's not being used, but needs to be. And I would love to be able to go that route, including oil spills, cleaning up wastelands. I mean, the list is very long. It's an industrial, commercial, residential application that I'm looking at.
Could it be used for, say, swimming pools?
Yes, in fact, I had it in mind for 15 years before I sold my house. Oh, I introduced it to, I don't know if you remember when Wet and Wild were here in Las Vegas.
Yep.
They used it for years, and several of the hotels used it too. It can, and it does replace chlorine, which is important, and algicide. Now, I've even used it in the lake, because I've used it in the marinas down there for many years. All the waste treatment plants were using it. So everything that goes in the waste treatment plant after street goes into Lake Mead. And I've cleaned up oil spills in the lake, and we had that water looking pretty pristine for many years. And it's not looking too bad right now, but it could be looking a lot better if it was being discharged that way too. And I've done this with other smaller areas and bodies of water, actually, stagnant bodies of water. And quite honestly speaking, made the water to a potable condition, which is unheard of. So,
what does that
yes,
mean? What does
that means drinkable. That means taking stagnated water, polluted water. Well, the Presidente of Mexico invited me down there 15 years ago. I was just looking at the video. And they were dumping raw sewage into the ocean, and San Diego Coast Guards caught them and shut them down. So they called me in. They had just built a waste treatment plant. So I took it, my formula there, showed them how it would clarify, take the odors out because they had that problem, but clarify the water so it was dischargeable. And I had fun doing it. But that's an area that I could be doing right now. The problem I had back then, Leslie, is I was doing this by myself mostly. I would start a project, and then other people would drop their ball, and I couldn't pick up the slack. They wanted to build a blending plant there for me. They wanted to do a lot of things, but never got to that level. So all I could do is just, help them on a small scale, and that was it. So that's why I'm saying, hopefully I'll be able to pick that up and maybe go further next time.
What, as far as like potential medical stuff, I mean, what have you heard from people that have, accidentally or otherwise maybe have taken some or something?
Well, from the accidental side to the purposeful side, I have literally, one of the things I learned, even when I had secret clearance to go up into areas and couldn't even talk about what I was doing years ago. I can mention it now, but I couldn't then. I was doing things up at Area 51. We were bringing up stuff from the ground that we couldn't even talk about that had contamination on it. It happened to be right next to the depository of the nuclear waste. I had to wear a tag on me, as everybody did coming and going, that had to identify what kind of radiation you had, because you're exposed to it. I was exposed to mercury, all the contaminants that we produced, and we literally have produced them all too, mostly. So everyone up there, as far as I know, have all passed away. But I would come out of there, and they never detected anything on me. But they didn't know what I was doing either. I was taking it internally, and I was spraying it all over my body. So I protected myself. I knew what I had.
What does it kind of do when you do take it? What does it do for the body? I mean,
well, first it cleanses the blood. There's a few ways of cleansing the blood. One is lowering the body temperature down to 32 degrees for about 20 minutes. That's, if you fall into icy water, as long as you don't hypothermia and die, that will purify your body. That's stopping your heart rate and your blood flow. That's one way. Purifying the blood, which is going through all your internal organs, your pancreas, your liver, your colon, your heart especially, because it takes the plaque off. Now, I'm glad you asked that because it reminded me of something. 25 years ago, I was invited to the doctor's convention after this individual drank it. This particular doctor, I can say this now without, for any reason not to. He used it. I won't mention his name, though. I think he was retired anyways. He had a stage 4 cancer patient who was going to die. Operated on the individual, sprayed my formula on the cancer, and right in front of his eyes it went into remission. He had never seen anything like this in his life, and he's a chemist and a biologist. When he said that, he says, I want to talk to you. I said, I can't tell you what it's about. We met privately, and he told me the whole story. I said, well, what do we do? I says, we will take something like that and squelch it. He says, I know. If I produced it, I'd be out of a job. I said, I know. What do we do? We can go, and this is what he told me. He says, and sadly to say this too, we can go to Europe, bring it through the back door, or down to Mexico.
Right.
So you know what I did, Leslie? That's exactly what I did. And for many years, I've been saving people's lives. I have got multitudes of stories, but I've never shared them with hardly anybody. And I don't publicly proclaim it or claim it because of the obvious, But There's one thing I've learned, though. Now, I will share this with you, and this is very acceptable. My formula is the best energy drink in the world. You know why? Because it puts oxygen in the blood, and without it, you get Alzheimer's. Your mind die. The membranes in your brain will die for lack of oxygen. That's why Alzheimer's and aging and all that comes in. It reverses the aging process. I have, literally speaking, without bragging about it, the only living formula that reverses the aging process. I've done it in animals, plant life. I've done it in my own body. I have people looking at me and they're going, they can't guess my age. And I'm not sitting here trying to brag about myself, but I'm trying to make a point because it's a good point. It's a valid point. It does. It works that way. I've seen it in many people. I've talked to many doctors, scientists, biologists. I was invited to a doctor's convention here 25 years ago after this doctor did this. I got up there and talked to these men, and I was in my 30s. I'm 65 now. And they said, where did you get your education? I pointed out, and they thought I was pointing at the University of, Nevada. I said, no, the world. I don't have a degree that way. Well, when I shared that with them, shortly thereafter, because this was many years ago, it was just right after I started, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson have all taken my raw ingredients. Because, see, all my raw ingredients are pharmaceutical graded. And I can tell you, I'll mention the one of them is EDTA. They put it as a chelating agent. And Terra-Kleen made these raw ingredients popular. And all your skincare products, all your hand lotions, your shampoos, use it. It helps the follicles grow hair. I've grown hair on my own head. I mean, it does all these things. It does a lot more. I'm just highlighting and giving you bullet points. But these are the things this formula has done to the public and the market globally. And I'm proud of that. I am very proud of that. I've given speeches on it. I've been on other shows, even radio and television, many years ago, because I have a lot of experience that way with the movie industry and, television. So I did a lot of this years ago, but it never really, went any further than it did. And I did quite well financially, making money with it, and I always have. I've had a lot of other people. I mean, I've made several millionaires out of this business. I mean, it has that much more in that capability now. But the point is, and that's not my emphasis, is the quality of life that we don't have that this offers. Why would I not talk about it when I have something good? When people every day talk about poison and they give you all the disclaimers, they tell you all the bad things it's going to do to you, then they tell you to buy it. And I won't mention who they are because everybody knows who they are. And we listen to this every day, and we wonder why we're sick, why we're dying, and why we're not getting better. Well, here's the answer. And it just kind of breaks my heart when I sit honestly and look at the clock, because I get teary-eyed when I look at the clock and I see a second go by and I know that there's somebody died that I could have saved their life. That hurts. And that happens every day. I'm thankful, and I thank God every day that the people that are taking it and using it the way it's designed to be, and it always has been, even before I knew it was, I'm saving their lives, including myself. And I think with that said, it really kind of encapsulates it the way it should be. And now I'm looking to, when I say expose it, I'm looking to get it out there. And thanks to your platform, Leslie, and I applaud you for that, this will help that. Because, yes, I will be looking for investment portfolios, and there's many out there. There's people that would love to put money into anything they could just as a tax write-off. Well, how about investing in Terra-Kleen and doing some good? That kind of thing. So
how are you envisioning it working with, for humanitarian in Africa, things like that?
Well, thanks for asking, because I've been over in Africa. I've been in Ghana and a few other parts of Africa and helped with drilling wells and not only priming a pump, so to speak. That's an old expression, but that's the way you build wells. Cleaning stagnant water. You see these commercials all the time, these poor people drinking this poison every day and dying.
Yeah.
Well, this could be put in there and made literally potable. I mean, I've done it in front of people to make a point. Well,
what's that word you call it? Because you kind of broke up when you said, did you say, are you saying potable?
Yeah, when I say potable, actually that's an expression I gained from the waste treatment plants, because taking water from a stagnant position or a polluted position and purifying it to where it's acceptable to drink for your body.
Yeah.
That's what I'm speaking of. That's really what I'm speaking of. Now,
how do you spell that? How do you spell that?
I believe it's, don't quote me, I don't have my spelling ace in front of me. I think it's Pottable.
Potable. Okay. I've never heard that. That's kind of interesting.
Well, I'm an engineer by trade, so you'll hear me using, once speak to me more, probably, engineering expressions and that's just part of my nature. But I'm a teacher and an instructor too. I've done a lot of teaching down through the years, instructing. I love it. I studied the martial arts. I've done motivational training seminars with, his name was Tom Belita. He was Dale Carnegie's top salesman back in Michigan before he moved out here about 40 years ago, and worked with him. And our first seminar was put on in Jackson State, maximum security death row. Never forget it the rest of my life. It was the most rewarding experience of my life. Getting men that are getting ready to be put to death and smiling, and and doing. It almost makes me cry thinking about it, because that's a reward that just goes beyond words. Well, I feel I have that same expression going with Terra-Kleen. I really do, and I don't take nothing for granted. I enjoy every day of my life, and I do because I literally enjoy life. I've taken 2 words out of my vocabulary that I would love to see everybody in the world take out. One is worry, one is fear. The word worry causes stress, stress causes heart attack causes death. We all use it. We were born and raised to use it. I think it's human nature. I'm not saying there's anything wrong, but I think it goes back to attitude. And fear, because they go hand in hand, really, And you hear it's a common expression. I was probably one of the worst worriers in the world. But when I realized that shouldn't be, and I look at myself as a work in progress. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes too. I'm human, But at least I have some experiences that I'd love to share with the world, and help the world make a difference. And one happens to be the formula that I was blessed to create, and that's Terra-Kleen.
Okay, now I know it's available for the consumer, but you also have it for like industrial uses, like they can buy it by the barrels, right?
Currently
Something
speaking,
like that.
in fact, currently speaking, it's available in a 5-gallon, 55-gallon, or a tote, which is over 150-gallon container. So you might say it's available for industrial and commercial. I'm also on the cuspis and on the approaching as we speak of making it available to the public. And what I'm proposing to do right now, I'm working on it actually, putting it into a 4 to 5 to 6 ounce bottle, either ready to use or concentrate for anybody and everybody globally to buy. Something I've never done, but I'm going to. Well, God willing, the creek don't rise. I hope to do that in about 30 days. That's another reason. I'm glad you asked that. Thank you. Where, capital will come in handy for even this project, to get it out there more, because this could put a lot of people to work, not just in the valley here in our own backyard, Las Vegas, but around the country, and I could elaborate on that some other time, but
in the interim, is there a way that people, can order some, just to test it, or if somebody's real serious, they could actually come out and see and test a few things?
Well, if anybody goes to my website, I'm in the process of even giving that a facelift and adding a merchant account to it. I had a merchant account at one time. I semi-retired. I think I shared that with you earlier, and so I'm really coming back full gear, So to let everybody else know, I'm kind of coming back to the way I was. meaning I'm going to be more sophisticated with my approach, having a merchant account where anybody can go to the website anywhere in the world, order it, and have it shipped to them within a few days. And
okay,
that's
very cool.
really what I'm working on. But anybody here locally is more than welcome to call me and make an appointment or something, and I'll be happy to come out and do a demonstration. I'll be happy to show it to them. I do this quite a bit, and I love doing it because I'm a hands-on person, I guess. I said this not too long ago. You never really truly retire from your love and compassion. And when I did retire, I really didn't retire. I just kind of took a sabbatical, so to speak. And but I'm happy to announce that I'm back in full gear and looking for, honestly, good people like yourself, Leslie. And the more people, that I can bring in, because I look at it like this: nobody ever works for me; they're partnering with me. Everybody I consider is a partner. If we're working it together, then we're partnering. So that's what I'm looking for right now.
Okay, well, what I want to do is remind everybody, again, this is Thunder Access News, a special report. We're talking with Garth Stabley about Terra-Kleen, a very cool product. At the end of the video here, I'll have all the contact information, everything for people. Also at the bottom of the page, you'll be able to see that. And if you're listening to an MP3, well, just contact me and I'll get you the info if you need that. And Garth, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Is there any final words you've got for people? I know you're looking for potential joint ventures, partnerships, maybe a licensing deal, product placement, whatever. But aside from that, anything else that we haven't covered you'd like to talk about?
Well, quite frankly, I'm looking for that. That's true. I'm also looking for any end users of any sort, whether it's, as we mentioned, for home consumption, which I will be making available, of course, soon, or any of the industrial applications, because I'm actually looking at that. So I'm open to all that, and I just would like everybody to know that I'm open. I'm kind of an open book when it comes to any of that matter, but I would just like to thank you personally for the time to be able to expose what I believe should be exposed out there.